Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So this video is going to be a metaphysical introduction to the idea of the names of God. So it's a little bit more technical, perhaps, but this is going to be to really now deepen our Arabic, and this is kind of a prolegomenon the to a Names of God, 99 Names Arabic course, which I will be starting quite soon, inshallah. What we'll do is we shall begin with a very famous hadith, which you might be familiar with. Share my screen. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And قال الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم إن لله 99 اسما 100 إلا واحدا من أحصاها دخل الجنة. That verily God has 99 names, 100 but one. Whoso encompasseth all the names of God shall enter into paradise. So the first thing to note over here is that in Arabic, and really in ancient languages, we must not think of numbers quite literally. For example, the number 100, it can mean literally 100 things mathematically, but more so the idea of a number, actually goes into mathematics. Like we think of numbers as quantities, but really the words of numbers are pure qualities. The number 2, 3, 4, 10, 100 has a qualitative meaning, a ma'na. It's much more than just saying that than a delimitation, right? A number is much more than saying that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 and nothing else. There's an actual meaning to what it is. So the idea of 99, of course, first 99 is odd. It's a very symmetric number. The Prophet, peace be upon him, brings a very close comparison to the number 100. What is special about 99 is that it is 100 but one. Right? Not removing one would be wrong. It's saying that there's 100 but one. Let's reserve one to the side. Now, of course, this makes sense because, well, what is a name? It's a name of one reality, right? One reality has many names. One reality can have many properties. Something can be both circular and red at the same time. And that's not a contradiction, it is the very thing that it is. In general essences, a single essence can have multiple attributes or properties. So 99, the sphere of every possible meaning, ma'na, which subsists in the very essence of God. That is the metaphysical meaning of this. The one of the 100, is the source of, I don't say multiplicity. If God is pure oneness, then there is no multiplicity, but the different manifestations of unity. And I'm going to speak more about this in a separate mathematics video. The idea of, it's a very, very deep idea in metaphysics and ontology, the ways of unity, the permutations of unity, the idea that there is just one reality, the oneness of being, God alone. But yet there is a multiplicity which appears from this oneness. Really, the greatest question of philosophy, the greatest and most singular question of metaphysics is, how can the one become many? How is there both one and many? And this is very much the inmost mystery, the very kernel of divinity, which is the most exalted and highest knowledge, which is the very consummate gnosis of reality itself. But putting the metaphysics and number to a side, in summary, God is one and God is infinite. The names of God are the meanings, ma'ani, of the dhats, of the very essence of God, which is pure being. That if you say that God is loving, what we're saying is that the essence of being itself, the reality of God, is the reality of love. They are not two separate things. That being is love. If God is beautiful, being is beautiful. Beauty is not some reality super added to being. Being is intrinsically beautiful. Beauty is another name for being itself. So all these names are meanings, realities, which are the one reality of, like, the one thing which is at the center of all of these, which is the divine essence. That is what the name, the divine name, Allah, represents, or more than represents, is. It is the Jama', the singularity, the divine singularity of all the forms of divinity, all the meanings of godhood. This word is very profound. Man ihsaha. That ihsa is to, it has very mathematical connotation. Al-hasa or al-hasatu is a stone. Ihsa literally means to count, to enumerate. Because I suppose counting would be done with stones, so there's some type of connection there. But the ha has a meaning of coming around, containing. Ihata. So really the meaning is not just to count, to know the count of the names. It is that, and also to somehow encompass the names. How can one possibly encompass the names of God, which are the realities of God? Well, the only way to encompass a reality is to become that very reality. We encompass food by actually assimilating and digesting food. It has to be inside of us. This is the reality. The names of God, if the names of God are become inside of you, if you take on all the meanings of the divine names, then you shall enter into the very presence of God. You shall enter into paradise. Now, what we are going to do is just read the introduction of, this is really the course textbook that we will be studying. It is Al-Maqsad al-Asna fi Sharhi Ma'ani Asma'illahi al-Husna. Very, very famous text of someone who is perhaps even more famous, which is Al-Imam Al-Ghazālī. I'm not a historian, so I won't go into his history. There are people who can do that better than I, better than me. But what I do want to add is that this text is perhaps the first, one of the first, real systematic treatments of the 99 names of God. These 99 names come from a canonical hadith. Most of them are found directly in the Quran. All of them are found in both the Quran and the Sunnah together. And what we see here is, it's not just a commentary, linguistic, but metaphysical and ethical. It takes both of these things together. We might think of the ihsa from a mathematical perspective as being the metaphysical knowledge, the knowledge of divinity, the knowledge of these names, not just linguistically, but really understanding what the ma'ani of these names are. But also ethically. To understand, to really know these ma'ani, is to become one with these ma'ani. We know the meaning of beauty when we witness beauty truly and are therefore become ourselves beautiful. We know the meaning of mercy truly when we are merciful, when we are loving, when we are majestic, noble, generous. This is the reality of taqwa. It is to become godly, to become godly. Every reality of God is reality. It is our reality. That to say that God is loving is to say that the reality of being, the reality of God is love. They're not apart. So that if we are not aligned to the reality of love, if we are not experiencing this love, if we are not ourselves embodying this love, and if we are not loving, then we are disconnected from God. We are disconnected from the Absolute. We are not aligned to the divine will. And this very alignment to divinity is what Islam literally means. It is the process, the act of becoming completely aligned with what is divine. To become aligned with what is divine is it's an idea of theomorphic ethics, to take on these meanings of divinity. Because the human self, the meaning of what it means to be human, is to house the meanings of divinity. A munjala, a majla. The human being is a locus of divinity, because everything which exists is a locus of manifestation. Everything which exists is a theater in which the reality of God is becoming manifest. The most perfect mirror, the most perfect theater of manifestation, in which the reality of God is revealed most fully, is the human being. More than the earth, more than the entire cosmos, the human being is the most perfect vessel in which the reality of God can be, if the human has become himself perfect, can be perfectly realized. And that is the telos, the purpose of human existence. But that is why there's an idea in physics called the anthropic principle, the idea that life is not just an accidental, emergent phenomenon in the universe, but that human life is a necessary prerequisite for the existence of the physical universe. In fact, we would more so add, for the existence of any universe, physical, imaginal, spiritual. The human being is necessary for the existence of the world. Because the human being, most fully understood, is the purpose for the world. The human being is the purpose of divine manifestation, where the complete reality of God in complete totality is revealed and manifested in the human locus. This book covers these twain perspectives. What is the reality of God, which, communed with all, is the very essence, quintessence of the reality of man, the very inward, ethical, spiritual principle, what it means to realize our humanity, what it means to spiritually develop ourselves, what is the purpose of life, which is to realize these divine meanings. Alongside this core textbook, there's a few others, but why am I doing this course? Why is this a good thing to do? Well, to learn Arabic, we have a crash course in Arabic grammar. Most of these videos are up on the channel directly. You can watch those. After you've learned the very basic foundations of grammar, what you need to do is learn vocabulary. You need to embody and live the Arabic language. In the last few lectures, I spoke about this, the idea of embodying or embodied learning of the Arabic language. That is what we need. And we said that, well, what meaning should we learn first? Those meanings which we should learn first are those meanings which are first, which are the meanings of God. So this is the most logical, spiritually, ethically, linguistically, metaphysically, it's the most logical foundation and starting point for the Arabic language. Now, this is quite an advanced text, but the purpose isn't going to be to fully analyze it. That's why I'm happy to translate mostly. But it's to really imbibe the language. Imam Al-Ghazālī is a very, very good author of Arabic, really one of the best Arabic stylists. It's a great place to learn Arabic, learn good Arabic sentence construction. His vocabulary is very rich, and a lot of core vocabulary is going to be learned through the names of God. And this will also open up the Arabic of the Quran and those further courses. So this is actually a very good foundational course, at least with the help of a teacher. So this is quite advanced. We won't be going this complex and deep in every lesson, but that's why I want to record this video to give us introduction. So I shall read, translate, and comment. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I've explained what the Basmala means metaphysically a few times. The meaning of the ba, the preposition, has the meaning of opening most generally. The ba has a meaning of, it's an instrumental particle. Not only are we saying that with the name of God, but beginning with the name of God, established upon the name of God, that like Bismi, this is the foundation, the ground, the ism of God, Bismillahi. It's interesting to say, well, why do we say Bismillahi with the name of God? Why don't we just say Billahi? I will leave that to you to think about. The Bismillahi ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The very essence and reality of God. And from that, a corollary of that, what is the first manifestation of God? Because Allah is the very kernel, the essence of divinity, infinite, pure being itself, incomprehensible. We cannot ever conceive and comprehend this reality, the absolute reality of God. But the first manifestation of Allah is Ar-Rahman. Ar-Rahman is a name for complete and absolute love. Not just Ar-Rahman, not just Ar-Rahim, but Ar-Rahman, infinite, absolute love and goodness. That is the ontological principle for existence, this emanation of divine love. Ar-Rahim, that this love is eternal and ongoing. This comes from the pattern of fa'alan and fa'il, right? Remember the ma'na mabna thing we said? Every word has two poles. It has the ma'na, that's the root letters, coming down into the mabna, the actual letter, the form of the word. The form here is fa'alan and fa'il. Alhamdulillahi, alhamdulillahi al-mutafarridi bi kibriyaihi wa 'azamatihi. Alhamdu, so the al itself has a meaning. The definite article has a meaning in Arabic. The meaning here is istighra. Think of this as not just praise or the praise, but praise itself, the reality of praise itself, which includes every possible method of praising, way of praising, every possible instance of praise, all of that. And the archetype of praise, of hamd, is unto God, lillahi. It is completely connected, directed to, of and for the divine. What is praise? Alhamd, the meaning of ha, is presence itself, hadra. And the hamd, mim and dal, like amd. Amd and hamd is an intentionality. When I do hamd, I am turning completely towards the thing I am praising. There's a conscious intention. Somehow I'm giving my focus, my intention, my concentration unto this thing. That can be by articulating, saying that, thou art a great. As I give attention to you, as between human beings, one of the most pleasurable activities is to give attention and to receive attention. We love to be noticed. Just speaking to someone and looking at them is a form of hamd. That is the meaning. All turning, all consciousness, and all existence is for and to God. And as part of this is meta, like when we say do praise of God, and then when we mention the attributes and names of God, that is the very praise. Not only are we saying that Alhamdulillahi, but our saying Al-Mutafarridi, or whatever, Ar-Rahmani, is that praise. So it's quite meta. It's like hamd, and the hamd itself is there. The word alhamd is here, but also the meaning of the word alhamd is here in that we mention the name of God multiple times. Al-mutafarridi bi kibriyaihi, singular in kibriya, infinity, wa'azamati, sublimity, all the meanings of exaltedness, of highness, of loftiness, of being all-encompassing and transcending, and utterly awful, the literal meaning of the word, and sublime and beautiful in a transcendental manner. Al-mutawahhidi bita'alihi wa samadiyatihi. Again, an idea of singularity, of oneness, fard, wahid, utterly one and singular in his essence, and in the fact of his beauty, of his transcendence, and all these attributes of godhood. الذي قص أجنحة العقول دون حمى عزته. He who clipped the lofty wings of intellects, that they fall short to soar unto the presence of his power and honor and sublimity. ولم يجعل السبيل إلى معرفته إلا بالعجز عن معرفته. He who made the way unto his knowledge, the way of unknowledge, the way of incomprehension. He who made the way unto being conceived, that he cannot be conceived. Because to know that God is inconceivable is to conceive God. This is, you might say this is a paradox, but rather this is a great mystery. Well, how does that make sense? Well, remember that the idea of duality, the principle of non-contradiction, the idea that something must be A or not A, that occurs in the realm of duality, which is existence. But God is beyond existence. God is that very oneness which is before duality. God is the reconciliation of all multiplicity and opposites. By definition, he is the singularity of being. Wherefore, the principle of duality does not apply. We might call this non-duality. And this is actually very close to the idea of diagonalization in mathematics. In fact, I'd argue they are very much the same thing. I would argue that mathematical diagonalization arguments fall upon this archetype, that this is the prototypical, archetypical diagonalization argument. That the inconceivable can be conceived in its inconceivability. Contemplate this. That which is inconceivable is inconceivable. But the fact that we can conceive the inconceivability of the inconceivable is a conception, a quasi-conception, I suppose, of the inconceivable. We can't conceive it, but there is a way unto its knowledge. We cannot know God in himself. We cannot know the absolute in absoluity. But we can know the absolute in relation. And the greatest relation is that we cannot know, that is to know the absoluity of the absolute. We cannot comprehend infinity. We cannot look infinity in the eye, but we can know the infinitude of infinity. And we can know that to greater and greater extents, to infinitely many extents. وقصر ألسنة الفصحاء عن الثناء على جمال حضرته إلا بما أثنى به على نفسه وأحصى من اسمه وصفته. And he who made the tongues of the most eloquent men to fall short, to comprehend his praise, we might say simply to comprehend him, to comprehend the infinite beauty of his presence. except by what he hath praised himself by himself. So we cannot know God, but we can know God insofar as he has revealed himself to us. And as I've stressed many times, that everything is a revelation of God. We can think of the cosmos itself as a Quran. The cosmos is the macro Quran, and the Quran is the microcosmos. The cosmos is a revelation, the Quran is a revelation, everything is a revelation. And again, this idea of ahsa, to comprehend, min ismihi wa sifatihi. والصلاة على محمد خير خليقته وعلى آله وأصحابه وعطرته. And salat, again, the very meaning of salat is connection. The blessings of God, but really the connection of God, the closeness and proximity to God is more than upon. Ala, one meaning of ala is li, is connected to the reality of the Prophet, the reality of this archetypal human being, the quintessence and center of the human being. Right, we said that the purpose of creation, the purpose of all existence, is to manifest God. And the most perfect locus of manifestation of God is a human being. That is, the human being who has realized himself fully, the perfect human being. They are the prophets, and that is the Prophet Muhammad, the perfect human being, who therefore is the purpose of creation. And our purpose of creation is to become Muhammadi, to follow in the way of the archetypal human being. So it is to become Muhammadan. And thus that connection, which is firstly unto the Prophet, connects unto his ahlihi, his people, his family, and his people most generally, his companions, his descendants, his progeny. Amma ba'd, so to continue. So, in fact, I won't translate this, but very often we see in this classical text, in fact, always, it was never written by the author's own volition, that, the author wanted to, by his own will, produce this book to bring this knowledge out. It was always the case that the knowledge was brought out of him. This is a general principle. We are never able to bring something out of ourselves. It's not what this life is about. It shall be brought out of us. That is divine acceptance. Something happens naturally and ordained by God when it is not we who are doing it, but when it is being done unto us from the higher source. And so his students continuously asked him until he wrote this book. The language is very beautiful here. Right, it says, فَلَمَ زَلْ نُقَدِّمُ فِيهِ رِجْلًا وَأَخِّرُ أُخْرَى ترددا بين الانقياد لإقتضائه قضاء لحق إرخائه. Right, whenever I put one foot back, I took one step. Whenever I took one step forward, I took one step back. Why? Hesitating, moving between, wavering between, submitting unto this request, so to fulfill the right. قضاء لحق إرخائه. When someone asks you something, they have a right. It's our duty now to fulfill this duty of brotherhood. Not just brotherhood to that particular person, but to all of us, humanity, to the cosmos. This is the cosmic brotherhood. We all have a duty unto one another. وبين الاستعفاء عن الالتماس أو عن التماسه أخذا بسبيل الحذر وعدولا عن ركوب متن الخطر. But also for recoiling from this request, for the caution, taking caution, so not to immediately embark upon a very treacherous, a very dangerous manner, right? Khatar, khatara. Doesn't just mean danger necessarily. It means whenever something, well, I mean, what is danger? Something is dangerous when it is risky, but what is risky because it is precipitous. There's a precipice, right? It is risky to climb a mountain, but that's because the top of the mountain in its very nature is risky. It's a small peak at the very top. It's a small area on a dazzling, vertiginous height. But that is the nature of what is rare, what is lofty, what is precious. It will be the khatara. It will be fraught with risk and danger because it is powerful. But to do anything meaningful in life requires us to embark upon this adventure. But this is the key now, with this assistance, according to the divine madad. When it is by our own egoistic nature, our wanting to do something, we are left to our own accord. But when it is an answer to a higher calling, this journey is not our journey, but it's a rather than we pushing ourselves forward, we are being pulled along, and that's being assisted by more than us, which we need. No human being can live life on their own. We need support and assistance and derivation from higher structures beyond us. واستقصار لقوة البشر. That our constitution, this frail constitution and physical form, cannot bear this theophany. And Imam Ibn Ata'illah in his Hikam says this. Says, do not seek the full revelation of God in this world. لضعف نشأتك, because our nash'ah, our constitution, this creation, this form is weak. This is not our final form. We're not supposed to really live the life we want in this body, in this form. It's not meant for that. It's a seed. The last video I made, I spoke about the ontology of life. This life is a seed. A seed is delicate. We are delicate still. عن درك هذا الوتر. The constitution of man cannot fully realize this water, this desire, this wish and intention. And therefore that's not the point. There is no book, no man-made book which can comprehend reality. Any attempt to do that is arrogance, human hubris, and this idea of wings clipped short of God obviously calls back to my mind is going blank actually, with the Greek myth of he who flew too close to the sun. Icarus, right? The myth of Icarus, who flew too close to the sun and so came crashing down. So that's not what this book is, but this book is a miftah. It's not the full revelation of God. That's not the point. It's a key to open up the doorway to that revelation inside of ourselves. في آفاق الأنفس. وكيف لا? How would I not shy away? وللبصير عن خوض مثل هذه الغمرة صارفان. There are two main reasons which might turn us away from this deep diving into the august darkness of divinity. One is that it is, firstly, it is utterly hard to reach this knowledge in the first place. فإنه في العلو في الذروة العليا والمقصد الأقصى. This knowledge of God, is the utmost singularity of being. It is the very, very, very utmost crown and hierarchy of the hierarchy of existence. Nothing beyond that. الذي تتحير الألباب فيه. All intellect, all consciousness has become bewildered in the divine ocean. Of course, that bewilderment is the knowledge. The Prophet would say, Allahumma zidni fika tahayyuran. O Lord, increase my wonderment in thee. As Socrates said, wisdom begins in wonder, tahayyur, this childlike wonder and curiosity, where we know not whither the direction be, but that we are completely enamored and stupefied in the love of what this is, and the curiosity and yearning. Right? This is not just a nausea. A nausea would be like the Sartrean perspective. I can't remember the book, but when he speaks about the encounter with being as some type of existential nausea. This is a theme in modern existential philosophy. This tahayyur is not an existential nausea. It is an existential wonderment, an annihilation. This contrasts, I suppose, modern society's experience with being with ancient society's experience. The ancient world, if you came to being, you came to God, because God is being. But if you no longer know what God is, being becomes a vast horror, a sea of unknown. Which God is, right? We should fear God, because we cannot know God. By definition, God is inconceivable. God is therefore indarkened. God is surrounded by an august divine darkness, a mysterious cloud which we can never penetrate. But as the thunderstorm and the eventide yields dark terrors in the mind, also its sublimity hearkens unto something lofty and profound and divine. That is the artistic, aesthetic idea of the sublime. Especially in romantic philosophy, it was a great idea. And I do recommend everyone to read, I think, is it Edmund Burke's On the Sublime, when he speaks about the idea of beauty and the idea of sublimity in aesthetic theory. I think it is quite appropriate and quite relevant to this work. This tahayyur is the mystical bewilderment in God, which is the mystical knowing of God. And that all intellect cannot even understand the foundation of this knowledge and how for its lofty heights, its inmost depths. So if the first reason why this is a great work is that the matter of the work, the knowledge of God, is the greatest knowledge. Second is أن الإفصاح عن كنه الحق فيه يكاد يخالف ما سبق إليه الجماهير. Having gotten this quintessence of knowledge, speaking about it, revealing it in the human tongue, and كنه الحق, right, the very inmost center of this reality of truth itself, is difficult to do. And when done, well, the truth can be very strange. Reality is strange. Reality is strange. The closer you become to reality, the more you revel in the strangeness of everything that is. Nothing is ordinary. Nothing is ordinary. Reality becomes stranger and stranger the more deeply you understand it. But that is a difficulty. وفي طعم الخلق عن العادات ومألوفات المذاهب عصير. We need to wean ourselves from what we think is common, from our common experience, our common paradigm of thought. We need to entirely rebuild our paradigm of what we think is possible and of what we think is true and real. We have to completely reconfigure our perception entirely. Again, very beautiful language. وجناب الحق يجل عن أن يكون مشرعا لكل وارد. And not everyone can drink from this divine ocean. أو يتطلع إليه إلا واحد بعد واحد. And not all together. We must all come into it one by one on our own journey. It is an utterly solitary journey, because God is alone and the journey to God, therefore, is alone. It must be embarked upon alone. So then what is the point of a book and what is the point of a teacher? It's a good question. Well, it can only be to intensify and guide one in his aloneness, in his self journey within himself. If not that, well, then whatever teacher or book he is studying with or under is only going to increase him in his own delusion. The true teacher, the true sheikh, is someone who leads you beyond yourself. That's all. Doesn't matter anything else. What they speak, what they look like, what the knowledge, what the education is formally. Ultimately, there is only one thing. They need to be able to draw you forth from yourself. That when you look and gaze upon the teacher, you see more than yourself. You see beyond yourself. And if this book does that, if this knowledge does that, if learning Arabic does that, then that is your teacher, and that is to follow. And I'm very clear about this. I teach not Arabic as merely an intellectual pursuit. This is a spiritual occupation. And if this is your spiritual occupation, the path unto it will open up naturally. If not, well, I can't really help in that case, because that's not my philosophy. Hmm. And with the dua, فأسأل الله عز وجل أن يسهل الصواب ويجزل الثواب بمنه ولطفه وسعة جوده إنه الكريم الجواد الرؤوف بالعباد. That thus we ask God to open this knowledge up unto us, to guide us beyond ourselves, أن يخرج الأرواح من الأشباح طيرانا إلى كنه الجلال في عش الجمال ويسكننا في قرب الأنس في الجنان ويعلمنا غوامض الأسرار من كل كيان يا حنان يا منان أورثنا مفاتيح الجنان بكنه الجنان وفصح اللسان باللغة العربية واجعل معانيها تسري في كل الجوارح إلى البنان حتى نصدع بأمرك وننقاد لأمرك ونمتثل لحكمك ونتمثل لمثلك الأعلى صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم علمنا من لدنك علما ووفقنا للخلق الفاضل. اللهم أورثنا من مكارم الأخلاق ومكارم الإحسان ومحاسن الآداب. آمين. So let us end this here. I'll make some more videos about the 99 names and some more content. And if anyone is interested in joining this course, then just please do reach out to me. Take a look at the website, it's over there. Otherwise, a lot more videos will be coming out for all of you, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum.